What makes a world fall apart? Not a meteor, not aliens, not some evil wizard, but silence and small compromises. New laws no one really noticed. Technologies we welcomed without reading the terms. That's the world of dystopia. Not imagined from nothing, but built out of what already exists, just turned up a little too far. Hi, I'm Andrea, the creator of bibisco, the novel writing software downloaded by more than 200,000 writers around the world. And today we are talking about how to write a dystopian novel. And not just any dystopian novel, but one that actually means something. One that stays with the reader, not because of explosions or high-tech gadgets, but because it dares to ask, what if this future is already here? We often think of dystopia as a subgenre of science fiction, but the best dystopian novels aren't about distant galaxies or impossible technology. They are about now. They take something real, a fear, a policy, a behavior, and extend it to its logical, terrifying extreme. That's what makes them powerful. A good dystopia doesn't feel foreign. It feels uncomfortably close. It forces us to recognize pieces of our own society and imagine what happens if we don't change course. Books like 1984 or The Handmaid's Tale endure because they don't offer simple escapism. They challenge us, they haunt us, they stay relevant, not because they predict the future, but because they reflect the present. When you're writing a dystopian novel, the world isn't just a backdrop, it's an active presence in the story. It shapes your characters, your plot, and your tone. But more than anything, it tells the reader what went wrong. You have to start with a rupture, something that cracked humanity's course. It could be a political decision, a cultural shift, a natural disaster, or even a technological breakthrough that promised convenience and delivered control. From that moment of rupture, you grow a society that believes it's functioning, even thriving, but at a terrible cost. The way people live, how they move through public space, how they speak to one another, even what they eat, all of it should feel shaped by that original wound. And the more subtly you weave those consequences into setting, the more immersive and unsettling your world will feel. One of the biggest mistakes writers make is giving their protagonist too much clarity, too soon. In great dystopian stories, the main character doesn't begin as a hero, they begin as a part of the system, or at least resigning to it. They notice something's wrong, maybe it's a rule that doesn't make sense, a person who disappears, a moment where they feel something they are not supposed to feel. That crack is small at first, but once it appears, it spreads. Doubt becomes discomfort, discomfort becomes resistance, resistance becomes action. These protagonists don't need to save the world, often they can't, but they do something far more powerful. They choose to see clearly. And that clarity in a world built on lies is already an act of rebellion. When built characters always focus on what they long for, not just what they fight against, but what they miss. Maybe it's memory, maybe it's love, maybe it's silence. That longing makes them human, and in dystopia humanity is always the most dangerous thing. The dystopian plot doesn't rush, it builds slowly, patiently, like a pressure cooker. It usually begins in apparent stability. Life goes on, the trains run, the city lights still shine, but underneath there's rot. And the story begins to follow a character who starts to smell it. As they ask questions and push boundaries, the world reacts. The system defends itself, at first through warning, then through punishment. There's usually a moment when the character has to decide, retreat or risk everything. And once that line is crossed, there's no going back. The climax isn't about defeating the system, it's about confronting it, seeing it fully, without illusion. And the resolution, sometimes it's hopeful, sometimes it's tragic, but in both cases, the reader walks away changed. Kind of like watching a good YouTube video, right? So if you feel a little more inspired or a little more dangerous as a writer, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. We are not Big Brother, but we do love good storytelling. In dystopian fiction, the most powerful twists don't come out of nowhere. They come from truths the reader almost suspected but didn't want to believe. Maybe the mentor is a part of the system. Maybe the safe place is a trap. Maybe the rebellion is just another form of control. These moments reframe everything that came before, and they sting because they feel right. Twists are not just excitement, they are ideological punches. They remind the reader that in this world, trust is dangerous, hope is fragile, and control can wear many masks. As you write, use a twist to deepen, not derail your themes, and keep asking, what does this reveal about the world? What does it cost the protagonist? And what will it cost the reader? One of the most brilliant tools in dystopian fiction is language, because if you can change how people speak, you can change how they think. Orwell knew this when he invented newspeak. Atwood did it with rigid titles like Handmaid and Commander. Even slang, like in A Clockwork Orange, reshapes how we understand violence, youth and rebellion. So think carefully about the words your characters use. What do they call the government? How they talk about love or death or freedom? What are they no longer allowed to say? In a world where speech is regulated, silence becomes resistance, and every line of dialogue carries weight. Writing a dystopian novel is demanding. You are not just telling a story, you are building an entire system and then tear it apart. That's why having a tool like bibisco isn't just helpful, it's essential. It lets you design complex characters, track ideological shifts, connect plot threads to world building, and maintain consistency in your tone and structure. Whether you are outlining a totalitarian regime, designing a shattered economy, or writing a dialogue that drips with subtext, bibisco keeps everything in one place, so your mind stays free to imagine. The best dystopian novels don't just make us afraid of the future, they make us look harder at the present. They remind us that freedom is fragile, that truth is precious, that silence is never neutral, and that sometimes the scariest question we can ask is, what if you already live in it? So write your story, let it provoke, let it unsettle, let it resonate, and if you are ready to build that world, bibisco is ready to help you do it. Download it, start writing, because stories, especially the darkest ones, can still shine a light.